Hello, fellow tankers. This is Dauntless, and welcome to another episode of Dauntless Tactics. This is episode 4, and we were going to be featuring the Panzerwagen, aka the Flipwagen, on the map Mines, starting from the north base. The reason I decided to show you guys this replay is because I know a lot of you will find yourself in the same situation that I find myself in this game, where you'll find that one flank gets completely rolled and you're in this awkward position of trying to defend the base or push the other side. If you look at the mini-map here, you'll see it kind of has a circular effect where the middle doesn't really do a whole lot of pushing, and it's always one side winning and the other side losing, that kind of thing. So, light tanks. How do we play Abbey with a light tank? Well, you're most likely going to push middle. So let's take a look at the lineup and see what kind of tanks we have to deal with. The first thing that should stand out to you guys is there are 4 light tanks on either side, and that's going to make for quite the brawl in the center of the map. We know this already because light tanks really don't have a whole lot of options when they're playing Abbey. There's really not a lot of spotting opportunities unless you're willing to risk it on the 8-9 line, and being in a top tier light tank like this, I'm not going to waste my DPM advantage that I have by just trying to spot. Not to mention this thing is a bus, and if I get myself lit on the open, I don't want to risk getting killed too quickly. So let's take a look again. That we have an enemy Lynx and an EBR, 2 wheeled vehicles. Most likely they're going to be kind of around this area, my guess. I don't think. There's just not a lot of opportunities for them to YOLO. So my guess is that we're probably going to see them somewhere in the center of the map. There's a chance that the AMX 1390, the Batchat, the 430, the AMX 13105, I have a feeling that some of those vehicles are going to attempt to take the hill or at least hang out in this area, and it's probably going to get pretty bloody. What does that mean for us? A lot of potential early farming in phase 1, so keep that in mind. This tank has high explosive shells with 120 millimeters of penetration, and so having those loaded is going to be a pretty big deal. I don't think I actually do at the very beginning because I wasn't paying attention to my loadout, but using those would be a pretty big advantage in my opinion. So other than that, 3 heavy tanks on either side. My guess is that depending on where our heavies go and where their heavies go, it's going to be either a win or a loss. Most of the time you'll see that heavy tanks push the 1-2 line and kind of ignore the 8-9 line, and depending on what happens, either it could be a stalemate on the 1-2 line for quite a while, or one side will win and the other side will lose, depending on which way our forces go. There are not a lot of tank destroyers, and so the 8-9 line is going to be harder to defend, and if their push goes down the 8-9 line, or if ours does and there's not a lot to counter it, you're going to see one of the teams cave in very quickly. So let's go ahead and get the game going here, and we'll kind of just chat as things go. So phase 1, what do we want? We want early damage. We decided already that we're not going to go for that early spot, and so what can we do to get that early damage? Well, we're going to go over to this location here. There's this house right here, and this is actually really beautiful if you take it correctly. There's a tree right up here that I'm going to knock down just like this, and you want to push it up against here, and then you can just sit right in that bush, and anything driving up to the hill, you're going to be able to get shots and try to hopefully get a tracking shot. And then all of a sudden, what do we have here? Mr. 1390. I actually do have my HE shells loaded. I guess I don't know myself well enough, I guess, but we have kind of an awkward situation. The 1390 has an autoloader. It has a 90mm autoloader. He already put 260 alpha into us. We want to avoid taking more damage. If we run now, he'll probably pursue us, and there's really not a whole lot of tanks that are here to back us up here. So what do we want to do? Well, we certainly want to punish him and let him know that we're not one to be messed with. So that's exactly what I do. I just auto aim here. This is something that I don't see a whole lot of players do. I use auto aim all the time for close range engagements when I'm focused on my driving. If I was trying to aim in third person like this, there's a good chance I could miss penning with my HE round because you have to hit actual armor and not tracks. And this is kind of a tricky maneuver that I'm trying to make here. I'm trying to drive around the corner while also getting shots on this guy. So auto aiming is the best way I can tell if I'm going to hit him or not, while focusing 100% on my driving. He's kind of out of options here. He's not sure exactly what to do, because if he drives out too far, he's going to get shot by the standard B. We were able to secure 2 really great shots into the 1390, and we're already up to 900 damage. He probably has all kinds of modules and crew members messed up at this point, because HE devastates when it pens. Alright, so the other thing I want you guys to notice is that we're still in phase 1. Our tanks are not in position. But the other thing I want you to notice is that their tanks have been lit by our light tanks, and they have the Super Conqueror over here. They have a strong push, and we have, what, a tier 8 tank destroyer and a couple wheeled vehicles over here to defend it. We are 100% going to get rolled on the 8-9 line, and our tanks are not doing anything to deal with it. The second thing I want you guys to notice, that a tree just fell right here. What could it potentially be? Well, we're about to find out. We know it's not going to be the Bat Chat. My guess is that it's going to be the other light tanks that are, or the medium tank, the 430. It could be the AMX 13105. It could also be their EBR or their Lynx, because neither of those have been lit. So we have another HEP round loaded, and it looks like it was probably the 430 that knock that tree down, but no matter, that the EBR get what he has coming to him, right? We caught him on fire with a nice HE shell. Fortunately, we did not hit him in the wheels, and look at that, a beautiful rear shot right up the booty of the 430, and we catch him on fire. 2 fires back to back like that is amazing, and you'll find that high penetration HE shells do get a lot of critical damage, including engine fires. So we are now officially in phase 1, or I'm sorry, we just completed phase 1. We are now in phase 2. Now that pretty much everything is where it's going to be for the rest of the game. We have some vehicles that are up on the hill, and now about a minute and a half into the game, we are kind of at that standstill. But the other reason I wanted to show you this is an example of where phase 1 just kind of melts immediately into phase 2, and then phase 2 is almost non-existent. You kind of skip 2 and just go straight to 3, and I noticed this very early on. I already know that I don't want to get caught in the open. Taking the Abbey here could be potentially beneficial, because you can get a few shots into these guys from the Abbey, but they have a couple vehicles up there, and I'm not going to waste my time and HP trying to deal with them when this horde is pushing in like it's nobody's business. So you saw phase 2 was a mere 30 seconds or so, because by the time this flank realized that there was no resistance, they had no problem pushing in. So now we're officially in phase 3 at 2.5 minutes in the game. More and more I am seeing situations like this with the matchmaking, and I think it has to do with the new matchmaking system, where how they have different tier vehicles stacked up against each other. It's very common to see situations like this, because pretty much in a game where there are only few high tier vehicles, you're going to find where they go, that's where they have the most influence. And again, what are you going to do against a Super Conqueror and AMX 13105 when you're in a Charioteer or a T55A? So I missed a shot there. That was not a great shot at all. I have the HE shells loaded, and they have really low velocity. So let's take a look at what's going on exactly here in the map. We are tied up. We're 4v4, which is good, but we are at an advantage because we have a lot more high tier kills. We've lost an artillery on either side, which is kind of besides the point. We don't really care about arty on a small map like this, and it looks like our team is most likely going to clean up. The problem I have here is that they have control of the Abbey in the center, and they have a Scorpion G on their base. I don't know. Oh, I guess the Ferdinand is here, but basically our team is being flanked by a tier 10 medium tank. They're going to be driving into the open against these tanks, as well as a Scorpion G with a 430 in the center, and we're being rolled on our base. This does not look good to me. To me, this is a recipe for a disaster, because our team is pushing into an ambush, and their team is pushing into me in a tier 10 light tank. So let's just unpause the game here, and we'll kind of see what happens. I decided I'm going to shoot at the Super Conqueror with HE. It was my last HE shell. Maybe I should have saved it for a reset for later, but I realized that I wanted to try to do some damage. He makes the mistake of turning his turret to fire at the T55A, and I'm able to secure the kill on the Super Conqueror. That is a big kill, just because we don't want that tank alive much longer. I'm sitting in this bush because it's super powerful with good view range, and I mean, against a tier 8 tank destroyer, this tank does have relatively good camouflage. I realize I'm not going to pen him reliably, so I switched to a heat shell, and our T55A dies to the IS-3. Now we're in a situation where we have the RU, this tank's little brother, and me defending a base against 3 enemy vehicles. We don't know where the 430 is. We can assume that he's back at the base, but things are looking kind of bleak. We are in a losing situation now. They have 1 kill above us, and we are just kind of playing defense. While I do have most of my HP remaining, the size of this vehicle and the fact that I have no armor makes me... I have to really conserve my HP because I don't have armor. If I'm going to take a hit, it better darn well be worth it, right? So the IS-3 is pushing across, and I back into the bush here to ensure that I'm not going to get lit when I fire. He takes a hit, I'm pretty sure, right there, and then I notice the Ferdinand is driving across. I don't have time to double bush right there, and so what I'm doing is I'm backing up and driving in a way that the IS-3 won't have shots on me. And so I drive all the way back here, and then I'm going to wait for the Ferdinand to go unlit. Once the Ferdy is unlit, I'm fairly certain that I'm no longer lit either, and I feel like the IS-3 is going to make a run for it, right? Because he saw me drive away. And so I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to wait, and sure enough, there he goes. I decide I can't double bush just then because I won't have a shot, and I'm not really afraid of taking hits from these guys. They're not very high tier vehicles, and I have them outclassed in pretty much every way. Artillery is a little bit concerning, but I feel like he's a little bit preoccupied, and the South has failed like I kind of expected. We have the 430U with us now, which is great, and I fire a heat shell into the Ferdinand. He punishes me, even though he has a small gun, and I fail to connect my heat shell. Now artillery decides that he wants to take some shots at us. He has an autoloader. We don't want to deal with that anymore. 2 failed pens. The 430 has the armor. I trust him. He's going to be able to deal with it. And I decide to go over because if you pay attention to what was happening here, we just lost our last tank on the 2-line push. Now we have ourselves cornered. When you find yourself in a situation like this, where you are concentrated on a small corner of the map, also known as turtling in a lot of strategies, you're going to get killed. 9 times out of 10, you're going to die. You need to isolate vehicles and engage them 1 versus 1 when they're away from the group. And in a situation where it's 4 versus 8, you'll find that fast vehicles, thinking that the game is already over, are going to be really overconfident, and you want to punish that. You want to take advantage of that as much as possible. So if you look at the map here, they have a T-44 and IS-3 too. Those 2 vehicles are most likely going to be pushing towards us, right? We already know this. We were going to predict this because where else would they go? We're all lit. They know we're here, and they have nothing else to do but to drive towards us. But the T-44 is about twice as fast as IS-3 on this kind of terrain. So what that means is, I don't know how much HP these guys have, but I would much rather face a T-44 by itself than with an IS-3 because for every shell that I fire, I'm going to take 2 in return. I'd much rather face 1v1. So knowing that this T-44 is going to overcommit and not wait for his buddy, we need to take advantage of that. So we're just going to drive around the corner here. It's been a little bit, so I'm assuming he's probably right around this corner here. And sure enough, there he is. I'm going to fire one into his upper plate. And then I realize, okay, the IS-3 is most likely pushing here, and I don't want to afford the chance of this T-44 getting away and then having them rush together. So I know I'm going to take a hit here, but I'm just going to drive forward, and I'm just going to finish this guy off. Now I make a little bit of a misplay here. The IS-3, being in a slow tank, took the low road. I should have predicted this. I had a feeling that he was sitting up here and that he would shoot at me, and that's why I drove down using my speed. But in fact, the IS-3 had taken the low road, and that is a read that I should have made, and now I put myself in the open. Thankfully, he missed though, and I was not punished, but being in an autoloader, he has his second shell very, very quickly. He does take some damage, I think, from the 430 right there, and I fire. I end up getting a track shot, which isn't great, but at least he's going to be slowed down, if not immobilized, and the 430 should be able to take this guy out. Awesome. So a little bit of a misplay on my part there. It did cost me some HP, and if it wasn't for that 430, I could have died in that situation. So kudos to him for being a good player. 430U, in this situation, he played very, very smartly. He fell back when he needed to. He didn't push with the rest of his team, and it's only because of him that we even have a chance to win this now. It looks like they were able to take care of the wheelie and the Ferdinand that were on the base, and now we have a Scorpion. The Scorpion managed to push all the way up the middle, which is probably the fastest route for him, and he decides to get onto the cap, probably hoping to flank us or capture out. I don't really know, but the 430U is asking for support here. So unfortunately, our RU gets taken out, and we are both, or I'm definitely a one-shot. I think if the Scorpion rolls super high, this 430U could die, but he is going to come around this corner, and most likely he is going to find our artillery and shoot him, and I decide I'm going to ambush him. No such luck. He actually is smarter than I expected, and this 430U has just some pretty big balls here, and he decides to charge him. Yeah, I said, you know what, screw it. Got to be really careful I don't just jump off and die, because this thing can take a lot of damage just sliding off the smallest hills. You saw with just that, I took 89 damage. So now the game is pretty close to being won, right, guys? We have 3 kills. We are actually in the lead. We don't know how much HP the 430 has, but the last time we saw him, he was in pretty bad shape because I caught him on fire and did like a ton of damage to him. And my guess is that he's probably close to a one-shot, if not a one-shot, right? But I'm also a one-shot, so I need the 430 to take the initiative. I'm assuming if the 430 has any kind of HP, he's going to try to flank us along with that Scorpion, and he's going to be sitting on our base somewhere, hidden in a bush, or potentially push up from the center of the map, right? I don't want to leave our base exposed, and I don't want to risk him flanking us. I could easily sit here or here, but what that means is if he suddenly just appears out of nowhere, I don't have a spotting lane, and he could appear just right from, you know, behind me, but as long as I sit here, he has absolutely no chance of approaching anywhere on the northern half of this map without me spotting him first. And that's kind of my strategy here. I'm waiting for the 430U to just make a move because he can, in fact, take a hit, and our Conqueror gun carrier is still alive, and so that's a little bit of an advantage as well. Batchat Artie is most likely fully reloaded at this point, and I really don't want to risk getting spotted by driving through the open and having him permatrack me and take me out either. So right now it's just a battle of patience. I know sometimes it's tempting to drive out and try to figure out what's going on, but for the most part you're gonna just have to trust your gut and hold still and let the timer make the enemy make the move in most situations if you want to get that damage and the win. So we did turn a bad situation around, and again, I don't think I would have been able to do it without the 430U on my side, but teamwork happens, and you know, we played really, really well together. So the last place that the 430 was lit was in the center of the Abbey, and he was spotted right along this edge right here. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe if he drives around here a little bit or he fires his gun, I'm going to be able to spot him through that bush. And so I'm going to sit here. The 430 realizes that I'm in position, and while we don't communicate, he is pushing up to where the 430 was last spotted, realizing that I most likely will have a shot on him if he does, and if not, the 430U is a tier above and can certainly take the hit. So now I'm just waiting. I realize that this guy is gonna try to flush this guy out most likely, and if he tries to bail along the side, I'll have a shot. If he tries to confront this guy, I'll have a shot. In the end, my guess is that he's up here, right? Because where else would he be at this stage? So now we just have to wait. We're not worried about artillery. He's probably camping in the corner still, or, you know, if he was a decent artillery, he's going to be driving up to the 8-9 line, knowing that his team completely rolled that side and he'd be safer there. So I'm just going to pre-aim, and I realize that he's right there. Our guy takes a hit, but we were able to completely take him out with a nice solid roll, penetration to the side of the turret, and now we're up to 4 kills. Now it's just a matter of finding Artie. I decide I'm going to start driving towards the base, but then it kind of dawns on me, okay, you know what? This guy's smart enough. I was just lit. I'm driving this way. If I wasn't a fast Artie, I'd be driving the opposite direction for sure. And artillery really has no other choice but to cap at this point. Even though he's not going to win from capping, you'll see most likely that the artillery isn't hiding here, and if he was, he's certainly not going to stay there. So if anything, he's going to circle around and hide in this area or this area, hoping to bluff us out, or he's just going to get onto the cap to let us know where he is. And sure enough, I predicted that he certainly was back at our base, and so now I know I'm going to be able to confirm the kill and get my damage up even higher than it is. And you know, all in all, this was a really, really successful game in this Panzerwagen. This tank is certainly not a strong vehicle at all. I actually struggle in it quite a bit, but if you play it right and you use your HE and your high speed really effectively, you'll find that it can be quite effective in the battlefield. So what do I want you guys to take away from this game in this class, this lesson, right? Don't be afraid of being aggressive in the very beginning, but be really careful with conserving your HP. I took a lot of low risk, high reward, where people were still, you know, phase 1 is all about taking advantage of people trying to get in position. They're forced to expose themselves in a vulnerable state, usually the side of the vehicle, to try to get into an aggressive, good position. In this case, the center of the map, right? The high ground, the Abbey. This is a very powerful position to take, but in order to take it, you're going to have to expose yourself even for a brief moment. And when a fast tank like me is already in position ready to ambush, I was able to farm over 2,000 damage in a very, very short amount of time, thanks to my high explosive shells and also just my good positioning. Then we realized that phase 2 had pretty much been non-existent in phase 3, and in most of the game I just fell back and played defense. But knowing when to fall back so I'm not exposed out in the open, knowing what position to take, and then knowing when to confront the T-44 instead of just hiding and letting him come to me, where most likely it would be a 2 versus 1 situation. And we were able to turn it around. Kudos to the 430U for doing an awesome job this game. I couldn't have done it without him. And we were able to confirm over 6,000 combined damage in our tier 10 German light tank. So anyway, guys, hopefully you enjoyed that replay and that analysis. This episode of Dauntless Tactics I feel like was quite interesting. This was a fun game, and I'm really glad I got to share it and analyze it with you guys. Again, if you like this format and you'd like to see me continue to make guides like this, please show me the love, give me the encouragement, and I'll be sure to keep pumping these out for you guys. If you haven't subbed to my channel already, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the subscription button down below and give this button a like, leave a comment. It really does help my channel out, and it encourages the YouTube algorithm to promote my channel to other players that might benefit from this channel and hasn't quite stumbled across it yet. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate the support, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode.